Hello, I am here to do Josh from Literary Gladiators. I'm going to do his pasta tag. There are 10 different types of pasta with descriptions to match, and the goal is to choose a book based on that pasta description. He's done a couple of other food-related tags in the past that I've also done. The cookie book tag, the butter book tag, there was one more, the cheese book tag. So I'm going to get started here. Now the first one is Macaroni and Cheese, the most heartfelt work you have ever read. For this one I chose The Tin Flute by Gabrielle Roy. Gabrielle Roy she was a Canadian author. This particular book was published in the 1940s. It's about a young woman, a couple of young men in kind of the slums of Montreal in the 1940s. Now this book is in a New Canadian Library edition. I have a few dozen of these very colorful vintage paperbacks. They always include a little bit of an introduction about the author and then the actual novel. At the time, they would have been quite affordable. They would have been reprinting a lot of Canadian works that were out of print at the time. The back of this one says that The Tin Flute is an international bestseller in both French and English. It immediately established its author as one of Canada's greatest novelists. Seldom has an author received as uniformly high praise from all quarters of this poignant and beautifully written story of the little people in the depression-ridden slums of Montreal. The author's supreme artistry has made her characters unforgettable and her novel an enduring part of world literature. I read this book for the first time when I was 17. I was in my last year of high school, and I remember at the time liking it, but it fell a little flat for me. I felt like I didn't really get it. Then I read it again a few years later, and it went straight to the heart. It's a very moving, moving novel. I guess you have to be closer to the age of the main young woman involved in this novel, perhaps, to understand it. You have to have at least reached young adulthood, I suppose. So the next kind of pasta is spaghetti and meatballs, a work you know inside out, but like you can twirl with your fork. I've chosen Anne of Green Gables by Ellen Montgomery for this. Also another Canadian book, a classic, a world classic. Ellen Montgomery lived in PEI, wrote a series of novels about Anne with an E. These are just great books, and I've read it so many times. I've seen the TV movie so many times that I really know this book and the others in the series inside out. So the next kind of pasta is lasagna, a work filled with complex layers. For this one, I've chosen David Adams Richardson's Mercy Among the Children. I'm a little bit in love with this edition of the book. As you can see, it's this bright orange color. Even the pages have been dyed orange along the edges. This book is about a pacifist. It's about the children of the pacifist and the unintended consequences that they suffer based on the way that he lives. He won't defend himself under any circumstances. He ends up being accused of a crime, and his children suffer because of this, because he will not defend himself. It's a really fascinating novel. I'm going to read you the back of it. At the age of 12, Sidney Henderson pushes his friend Connie Devlin from the church roof. Looking down at Connie's motionless body, Sidney believes he is dead. Let Connie live, and I will never harm another soul, Sidney vows to God. At that moment, Connie stands up, wipes his bloody nose, and with a laugh, walks away. In the years that follow, the self-educated, brilliant, and now almost pathologically gentle Sidney holds true to his promise, yet others in the small rural community regard Sidney's pacifism as an opportunity to exploit and torment the vulnerable Hendersons. Raised on the books his father has long collected, Sidney's eldest son Lyle shares his deep respect for the power of words, but forced to witness the persecution of the people he loves, Lyle turns his back on God and literature and adopts a more aggressive strategy for the protection of his family. An exploration of how humanity faces inhumanity, how lies and disappointments cannot and will never destroy truth and human greatness. Mercy Among the Children is a novel with a universal message. I almost could have chosen this one for the heartfelt novel selection, because this is a book that will really get to you. It will really move you. So the next kind of pasta is stuffed shells, a work that is attention-grabbing, stuffed with goodness from start to finish. For this one, I have chosen Sweetland by Michael Crummy, another Canadian novel. This one is set in Newfoundland, and what we have is an old man who, he doesn't want to leave his home, he wants to stay on this isolated island, but the rest of the residents of this island have been offered a settlement and relocation package if they're willing to relocate the entire community. And the catch is that they only get this money, this resettlement, if every last person within the community agrees, and you have this stubborn old man hiding out, holding out and hiding out eventually, yes, but it's a really good novel from start to finish. Just when you think you understand what's going on, something more gets thrown in. Very enjoyable to read. And the next kind of pasta is Penne Vodka, a work for a younger audience with an adult theme hidden inside. So this was a tough one because I don't read a lot of books geared towards younger audiences, but I ended up coming up with A Little Princess by Frances Hodgson Burnett. This was a story I really loved as a child. I used to watch the Shirley Temple adaptation, and I owned a copy of the book in this exact edition, but funnily enough, I actually never read it. I asked my grandmother to buy it for me. She used to take us to pick up books, but it came with a gold locket taped to the cover, and I wanted it for the locket. But a year or so ago, I purchased another copy of the book, and I read it, and I enjoyed it. But there are some adult themes in here. Obviously, it deals with death, but there's a lot about social class in this book. So the next kind of pasta is elbow macaroni, and this is a work that is easy to read. So I chose a play. You can knock this off in about 20 minutes. It's Yesterday the Children Were Dancing by Gratian Galanis. This is a play that was published in the 1960s here in Canada. It's not very well known. I picked up this book by chance when I was in high school. As a play, it's obviously very easy to get through, but I remember it had a very big impact on me at the time. It's about a man who's a politician, and he's just gotten some big promotion, some big job that will take him to Ottawa, that will cement him as a Federalist, and then he finds out that his son is a separatist and is involved with a separatist terrorist organization in Quebec. The next kind of pasta is farfalle, bow tie pasta, and it's a work you would read to catch someone's attention. Now, in his original video, Josh said that this is a book you would read if you were flirting with someone, if you wanted to attract someone. Now, a logical choice seems like, I don't know, some poetry, Wordsworth's shorter poems perhaps, but I don't actually read poetry, and maybe this is why I'm single, but I'm more likely to read something like Not Quite Supreme, The Courts and the Coordinate Constitutional Interpretation by Dennis Baker to try to attract a person. I would say up until this point it hasn't worked very well, but if this doesn't start a conversation, I don't know what would. And the next kind of pasta is Noodles, a long work that was a great experience to read. For this one I chose Vanity Fair by William Makepeace Thackeray. It's been a few years since I read this one, but I remember really loving the characters. The main character really has attitude. I remember specifically a scene quite close to the beginning where she throws a dictionary that she's received for graduating back at the woman who gave it to her, because she's really upset about the way she was treated at this school that she attended, because she didn't have quite the same social class, the same finances available to her as the other girls. And it is quite a long novel, but I remember I just whipped right through it, really enjoyed it. And the next kind of pasta is lo mein, your favorite work of Eastern literature or literature about the East. This was a difficult one. I was scouring my shelves and I realized that I don't actually have many books that meet this description, which I suppose is kind of a gap, and I should try to rectify that. But I ended up choosing The Sailor Who Fell from Grace with the Sea by Yukio Mishima, because this is the only one that I could find, and I actually just read it last month. Conrad from The Deckled Edge has a book club on Goodreads, and this was the March read. And the final kind of pasta is Ditalini, a writer you feel is essential to a particular genre. I decided my genre is can lit, and so I chose Margaret Atwood's Surfacing. Now, a little bit of confession here. This is the only Margaret Atwood novel I have ever read, and it's short. I have more Margaret Atwood on my shelves, but I have not really read her. This was a very interesting novella or novel. I would consider it more of a novella because it is so short, but I read this over Christmas. So just a little bit of a plot synopsis on this one. A nameless woman in her late 20s, the narrator travels to the island cabin in desolate northern Quebec, where she spent her childhood to search for her missing father. In the course of a few painful days, the truth about her own life surfaces, an experience made all the more lonely by the company of 3 friends, her current lover, and another couple, who are unaware of the processes moving within her. First published to international acclaim in 1972. And the end of this novel is really kind of chilling, but also kind of neat at the same time. Now there are two more things on this list. 11 is favorite pasta. What's your favorite pasta? For this one, you're supposed to share what your favorite pasta is. Now, that's a difficult one because I pretty much like anything with pasta. If it's got tomato sauce on it and cheese, that's a plus. In my family, my dad and my sister both have tomato allergies, so we don't have a lot of pasta with tomato sauce on it, so we do a lot of white sauces. But I love to cook for myself with tomatoes. If I absolutely had to choose a favorite pasta, though, I would probably go for lasagna. I can make a really good lasagna. Then number 12 is Sunday night at Grandma's. Who do you nominate to complete this tag? So I wrote down a couple channels here. Number 1, the restricted section. I've started watching them lately. Been really enjoying their videos. They're a neat channel. I would love to see them do this tag. Next, Craving Books, also Miranda Hayes, who recently started filming videos lately, I believe. Actually, I just realized that she had videos up today and I subscribed. And finally, All the Shelves. So the 4 people I mentioned, consider yourself tagged. Go check out Josh's original video over at Literary Gladiators and have a great day. Maybe eat some pasta, read some books.